Greetings, Guardians of Dominion. Zeus here with another insightful video. Lately, more and more players are testing Guus in Arena and Grand Arena, experimenting with his unique healing mechanics and unexpected physical damage. And if you've been wondering how to deal with him effectively, you're not alone. Whether it's blocking his golden feather saves, or neutralizing his damage output, countering Guus can give you a real tactical edge. In this video, I'll walk you through the best ways to shut him down, and show you how to turn an enemy Guus into a non-factor. Let's get into it. Countering Guus is something that everybody wants to do, as many people are testing him in Arena and Grand Arena. If you can counter your enemy's Guus, it can give you an advantage worth having. When countering Guus's powerful healing abilities, which he is most well known for, it's best to rely on common healer counters, just like you would against heroes like Martha. Celeste and Jet are two of the most effective options in this role. Heroes that can block healing given to enemies are essentially the backbone of countering Guus and his healing abilities, and should be kept in mind whenever you are facing Guus in the arena or other game modes. Using Celeste is pretty straightforward, as her cursed flame can block healing given to enemies. Celeste has proven to be the most popular and formidable counter to healing through her game-breaking mechanic, and it is no stranger here when fighting against Guus. Celeste also has another way to counter Guus. If Guus is positioned in the first position on the battlefield, Celeste can deal a lot of magical damage to him, as Guus is very weak to magic attack through his low magical defense values. Any magic team could work, from more modern teams like Augustus Orion teams, to teams featuring the twins, Krista and Lars. We just cover Celeste more thoroughly based on popularity and her ability to counter Guus in more than one way. Another way to counter Guus is through Jet and his Potion of Fatigue. Jet's blue rank skill is a less popular healing counter, as many players like to focus on his support skills, but this skill actually has great value in various situations. When Jet targets frontline heroes, the ones Guus is most likely to initially give the golden feather to, they will be prevented from healing for 8 seconds. Keep in mind, that if you are trying to counter Guus using Jet, Sebastian must be absent from the enemy team, as he can block Jet's counter healing ability. Now, the third way to counter Guus and his healing abilities is through Yasmine. Yasmine has the ability to partially block healing to enemies who have the poisoned effect. Especially in the early stages of battle, when Guus gives his allies who have suffered the most amount of damage the golden feather, usually the frontline heroes, Yasmine has the ability to poison them, making the enemies negate the golden feather. Yasmine and Jet work similarly in countering healing and Guus, and if you have both, it can make the counter even stronger. The next way that we will look at is through Biscuit's patronage. Biscuit's violet rank patronage skill can reduce healing given to enemies who are frozen through your allies' basic attacks. Since there are many heroes that can use Biscuit's patronage, from Cleaver to Helios, Biscuit is one of the most dynamic and usable counters if you do not have Yasmine and Jet available. Any heroes who can stun or control Guus, such as Arachne, Jorgen, and Polaris, are great options and counters to Guus. These control heroes make it hard for Guus to activate his golden feathers and protect his allies. Stun effects can counter every healer and should be kept in mind when wanting to counter any sort of healer. All of these counters can be used by themselves to counter Guus and his ability to protect and hold his team together. But when used together, they can make Guus way less valuable on the battlefield. And although many players do not do this, if you really need to counter Guus hard, this is an option that you can use. Aside from these active ways to counter Guus, the one passive way is through the War Flag of Decline. If you do not know already, the War Flag of Decline can decrease enemy healing by 10%. When used paired with other Guus counters, like with Yasmine and or Jet, it can make the Guus counter way more effective. Through more testing, I may find more counters to Guus, and even some that may be surprising. But when I do, I will be sure to share them, so that I can also give you the advantage that you may need when fighting in game modes against Guus. Now that we have covered countering the main way that Guus is used, the ability to protect his team and be the backbone and healer of the squad, we will look at Guus's ability to deal physical damage to his enemies, as well as how to counter it. Many players did not expect Guus to be able to be a strong healer and a good damage dealer, but he certainly can, which is something that we do not see a lot of in healers. Usually, the healers we see and have in the game do not have the ability to deal mass amounts of physical damage. We also see the armor penetration stat in Guus, which has not been seen in other healers, but this armor penetration stat is what is key to Guus's damage dealing abilities. To be able to counter Guus's damage dealing, we must look at what his damage is based off of, to see who can counter him. In this case, Guus is a physical damage dealer, which is surprising in a healer, but is cool to see. Use physical attack counters such as Julius, who can put up a shield around his allies to block Guus's damage. Any heroes who can put up a shield to counter physical attack, like Oliver, can counter Guus's abilities to some extent. Using dodge-based heroes, such as Aurora and Dante, can help to protect your team through the use of their dodge mechanic. Especially when putting up dodge buffs through their artifacts, they can give their allies the dodge stat, giving them the chance to defend against Guus's attacks. Keep in mind that dodge-based heroes are hard counters to physical attackers. And Guus here is one of those physical attackers that can be countered by dodge. Helios counters critical hit damage through his skill Flaming Retribution, which punishes enemies every time they land a critical hit. When Guus is supported by Sebastian, the threat becomes even greater. Sebastian's artifact boosts Guus's critical hit chance, and his skill Battle Song increases it even further. As a result, when Guus activates his ultimate and strikes multiple heroes with 5 rapid hits, each critical hit he lands triggers Flaming Retribution, causing Helios to reflect magic damage back at him. The more Guus crits, the more damage he takes, making Helios a devastating counter when Guus is buffed for high crit output. Corvus can prove to be a counter to the amount of times that Guus can attack. Guus attacks multiple enemies 5 times. For example, if you have 4 heroes and Guus attacks them 5 times each, then that is 20 times in total. With Corvus's Altar of the Souls, he can basically damage Guus 20 times like this through pure damage. And perhaps one of the most forgotten ways to counter physical attack is through the simple armor buff. From heroes like Martha, who can buff armor, it can prove to negate physical damage coming from Guus. And although he has armor penetration, if you can stack armor buffs or have enough armor, you can successfully protect your team from Guus's potentially devastating physical damage. And that wraps up our deep dive into countering Guus, both as a healer and a surprising source of physical damage. We saw how heroes like Celeste, Jet, and Yasmine can shut down his healing, while dodge-based teams, Helios, and armor buffs can neutralize his offensive threat. With the right strategy, Guus becomes far less of a problem on the battlefield. Now I want to hear from you. Have you faced any tough Guus teams lately? What combos worked best for you? Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's learn from each other. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a tactical breakdown or team building guide. Until next time, keep fighting smart, stay one step ahead, and as always, salute and friendship.